one. Stoker brought him to life in the late 1800s, then Lugosi brought him to film in the early 20th century. Since then, everyone from Lon Chaney to George Hamilton and Luke Evans have played infamous Count Dracula. However, mythology and history show us that the legend of the vampire has been around since ancient times. Considered by many to be the oldest vampire, Sekhmet was the daughter of Ra in ancient Egypt. Her father sent her out to punish mankind by slaughtering them. As she killed them, she drank their blood to give herself power. I know that most of us are familiar with Vlad the Impaler of Romania, who's believed to be the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. But if you read the book Dracul by J.D. Barker and Descartes Stoker, Bram may have been basing some of this on actual events from his life. Whether you believe or not, the vampire has been an entrenched place in history and mythology. Are they real? Do they exist? It really depends on who you ask. Hello and welcome to Weird Awakenings. I'm Morgana Calder, and tonight I'm joined by the guys from Where in the Folk, Kelly and Cecil, also by my fellow weirdling, Miss Hadley Thorne, and our friend, the awesome Stephen Hill. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us. Check us out on weirdrealities.net and find us on Linktree, linktr.ee/weirdrealities. That's weird with a Y. Tell us what we're doing right, where we can improve, and what you'd like us to cover. Okay, so first I'm going to start with I want to suck your blood. So get that out of the way. So, who is your favorite depiction of the vampire, whether it's in book or film? Anybody?
Well, give me a minute. I'm sharing us on Horror Writers Inc.
Gotcha.
Since we talked about it earlier, Morgana, I'm going to have to say Robert Patterson in Twilight.
Okay, Cecil, me and you.
There's so many good ones, but I think my favorite is probably Gary Oldman.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
What's the guy's name from Near Dark?
I'm not familiar with that.
I don't remember his name.
Oh, let me look.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Lost Boys will always be one of my
It's up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Lost Boys too.
Adrian Padscar.
Bill Paxton.
Oh, Bill Paxton.
Yeah, Near Dark.
Bill Paxton's dad was involved in the Candy assassination.
I didn't know that.
Really?
There's a picture of the crowd, and you can see Bill Paxton sitting on his dad's shoulders in the crowd.
Oh, that's right. I have seen that before.
Well, I know what I'm doing when we get off air.
Yeah. Yeah. Cecil and I were talking a little bit before we got started. Here the last month, I have read probably 15 Jonathan Mayberry books. I started with
hold on. You tell everybody who told you to.
And my dear friend Hadley told me, you've got to read Jonathan Mayberry. Okay, so I did this, and then I was stuck. So he's got a series called The V Wars. And one thing I really like about the way he handles it is basically we all have dormant DNA in us that is for vampires or whatever. And they release some kind of retrovirus from the polar caps, and they get loose out to mankind. And the gist is, whatever your personal heritage is, that's the type of vampire you're going to turn into. So if you're Native American, then it's going to be the Native American mythology of the vampire. If you're Romanian, it's going to be more like the typical vampire.
That's interesting.
It's really cool.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It was really different, but I will offer a correction, because there is one there's one brother and sister where they turn into different types of vampires.
You're right. There is the Asian.
Mm-hmm. Because it really it's like your DNA. You know how like you can have a little bit different DNA from your brother or sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like that. Mm-hmm. It's really cool though. It's the most fascinating concept of vampirism I've probably come across.
After she told me about that, that would probably be my favorite if I actually had read it.
Listen to it. It's on Audible.
Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah, but like I said, I had never seen it handled that way, and I really did like it because it's like every chapter it's something different. And they give you a count up every once in a while because there's this doctor that's there from the beginning, and he's the one that's helping the government investigate. So it's like, well, we're up to 47 new breeds, and stuff like that. So it's really cool. But and when I was talking earlier too about the book by Bram Stoker's grandson or nephew, Dacre, and it's called Dracul. And I did some research on it, and evidently, when they first released Dracula in England, they made him cut almost the first third of the book out because they said it was just too much for people to handle. And then, doing more research and reading his notes and everything, he says that a lot of what he wrote was based on things he had seen. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, from everything I've seen, it's pretty much a variation of a vampire all over the world.
Yes.
Yes.
And I guess what I was going to ask the group is thoughts on, like, what do you think? Like, do you think it's real? Do you think that there was some sort of similar hysteria that was going on in sort of the, I guess some of it would have been tribal communities, but some of it was, pretty well developed societies that had the craze.
Do you really want to know what I think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get a little weird.
Let's do it.
All right. So, you know how there are certain frequencies people can't hear or see on?
Yeah.
I think that there was a time when we probably could, and that there are things that we probably can't see. Which one of my favorite quotes, I believe, is Jim Butcher, and it is, "Just because you don't see the invisible demon in front of your face doesn't mean that it's not there."
Very true.
And I think that there's a lot of things that at one time people were on the same frequency as and could see. I think that as technology and progress has taken us away from nature, that we've kind of moved away from being open to it. I think that sometimes I think there are people who still can tune into that frequency. And these are the people who we consider psychic or whatever. But I mean, it's just like there are certain people who seem to see something like Bigfoot, and they see it more than once. I mean, and but I think like once you tune into something like that, it's easy. Like kids are on that frequency. They haven't turned it off yet. As you get older, as you get more, I mean, I hate to say modernized, but more modernized, you move away from it. With the native cultures, you see they're still in tune. And that's why there's a lot of what we call superstition. But is it? Is it superstition?
Yeah, I like that.
There was a study of I think it was a South American shaman that they brought to the United States, and they took him into a mental health facility. And he was like, there were so many people who had like things that were attached to them, and he could see it. And then they medicate them down to where, they're basically zombies being tortured by these things.
Yeah.
But of course, there's at the same time, there are people who are really sick and have mental problems. But it's a matter of having someone like that shaman come in that's tuned in to tell the difference. And I think that's true today. I think there's so much we have tuned out.
Yeah, we might need to get one of those shamans to check out Cecil sometime.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't hurt.
What?
Well, do you remember that movie Skeleton Key with Kate Hudson?
Yeah.
I
Remember,
slept through it.
she told him, though, at the end when she finally started coming around, she goes, it only works if you believe.
Right.
So it's like they couldn't take over her until she believed it was true. And that's the reason none of the natives would ever come out to work out there, because they were so superstitious.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
now,
have I have a crazy theory about this, so I'm gonna let somebody else go first. Like this one's gonna be deep.
we like deep.
Okay.
What's your all's favorite origin of the vampires?
I like Vlad the Impaler.
You like Vlad?
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Lilith.
Oh, the Night Hag.
Yeah.
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 Well, there's so many. There's like 3 or 4 different theories about Lilith, right? Like she was either God's sister, or she fornicated with him and Lucifer, and then ate from the tree of knowledge, and
Uh,
a couple
the
more.
the one that I've always leaned to when it comes to vampires or demons is she was Adam's first wife. She was molded from the same clay that Adam was molded from, and she would not submit to him and was cast out. And
Yeah.
as such, she was the first vampire.
That's the popular one, isn't it? Like the main one.
Yeah, that's a lot of the rabbis
Yeah,
teach that. You know.
yeah.
There's also some crazy originations that I saw where it wasn't like the traditional you get bit by one or the Lilith or Vlad, but some people believe that more, I guess, shamanic things could cause it to happen, like an animal jumped over your dead body the wrong way before you could get it in the ground.
A cat jumps over the corpse and they become a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like those sort of ones where it's like not this huge impressive thing, but
Something simple.
Max jumped over my dead brother and now he's about to kill me,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering how much this may be tied into, like with the succubus. You know,
Yeah.
I saw some. I read a little bit where there might be a correlation there between that.
I think I've got one. I'll go ahead and drop it. I think I've got one that you're not going to find on the internet.
All right.
So I'm assuming that you guys know, and maybe I shouldn't say this word. I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to explain what it is. If you know, you know. But we all know about, I believe, adrenochrome.
Yes.
And we know how that plays into our society today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what's going on today is an evolution that's been happening forever.
Right.
And I believe just like how movies and TV shows today, they show you what's happening as like a flex. Mm-hmm. So I think that the book Dracula, and I think all of the hysteria and the lore as far as the books are regarded, I think that's the equivalent of them flexing back before TVs and stuff. And I've always heard that some of the main consumers of blood, we'll say, or spirit, essence, the loosh, could be it could be beings that have been here forever, and they just decided to go indie at some point and integrate into our society rather than being the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Do you guys know if they've ever made a movie about the story of Ambrosia? Do you know the story of Ambrosia? The Greek origin of vampires?
Oh, no.
Lay it on us.
It's a long one. You guys really want to hear this?
Yeah.
Of course.
All right. So this is basically it's in the scriptures of Delphi.
Okay.
So a young adventurer in the Mediterranean. I can't remember where he's from. I think it was Italy or somewhere. And around 450 BC, he began cruising the world. Being an adventurer that he was. And so, what they think is results from cursings and blessings from God turn them into the original vampire. Then the first account, I've got some notes here. Horribly misspelled, by the way. I wish I would send them to you, but But the first account was that he met a girl when he finally arrived in Delphi. He met a goddess by the name of Selene. Her sister was an oracle. I don't know what that really has to do with a whole lot, but Ambrosia fell in love with Selene. At the same time, though, the Greek god Apollo, which was the god of the sun god, was also in love with Selene. So, what he did was curse
The Apollo.
Apollo, yeah, sun god.
Selene's the moon goddess.
Yeah, that she turns into the moon goddess. Originally, she was just a goddess on Earth or whatever.
Yeah, I've always heard that Apollo and Ra and Saturn are interchangeable. They're just
Okay.
different
Yeah,
takes on the same being.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Just depending on whether you were in Egypt or Greece or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since Apollo was in love with her too, he cursed this dude to where if the sun touched him, it burned him. Because he found out that this guy was going to run off with Selene. So Ambrosia took refuge in a cave where he met Hades, and he struck up a deal with Hades to try to break the curse to where he could stay with Selene. But he had to loan his soul to Hades in order to get a wooden bowl, and Hades wanted him to actually start up a relationship with Artemis. Artemis,
Yeah.
ain't that the huntress god?
Yes.
And so he gave him 11 arrows to go and kill her and get her silver bow. Well, instead of doing this, he needed to find a way to get in contact with Selene. So what did was he would kill swans and use the feather from the swan and the blood to write love letters to Selene and leave them in the location where they were supposed to meet. Well,
This sounds like Twilight.
it does. It really does. And,
Bella Swan.
yeah, I bet that's where it comes from. Some kind of knocked off version of this. Well, Artemis really appreciated him, because he helped her out a lot or whatever. So when he came to his last bow, he missed the swan. His last arrow, he missed the swan and broke down like, "Oh my God, I'll never get to write a letter again." Blah blah blah.
Such a romantic.
So Artemis, Artemis felt bad for him, so she loaned him her silver bow. So immediately he's like, "Shit, yeah, I got the bow." So he took off running. Well, Artemis actually cursed him to where when he touched silver, it burned his skin. So he dropped the bow, because he couldn't hold silver anymore. So at this point, he's no longer able to touch the sun, go out in sunlight, or touch silver. Let's see. So even though he had tried to run off and everything like that, he explained the situation to Artemis, and she took pity on him. And he really was somebody that had gained her gratitude over the little time they spent together. So she decided to grant him with the gift of immortality, speed, and hunting skills, like she had. And from there, this is so fucking long. And so from there, she actually decided to help him get Selene. So him and Selene run off or whatever, he didn't get his soul back because he didn't fulfill the shit with Hades. But Artemis, being the virgin god that she was, he wasn't allowed to touch her or anything like that. So they ran off together in the boat. Whenever Selene gets to the boat, she finds him in a coffin. And
I'm so confused.
I'm great at telling these stories, I'll tell you. But
Expert level.
But it all comes down to where Artemis is the virgin god. He never ages because she granted him the gift of immortality. And one night he sees that Selene is aging and getting ready to die. So Artemis grants him one touch, but he has to drink her blood and kill her not human life. And that's when she becomes the moon goddess. So every night she touches him with her rays from up above, and anytime that their blood is mixed, they create other vampires. Essentially, is what happens.
Still a better story than Twilight.
Oh no, man, Twilight's awesome.
You know,
There's an origin for so many things in that story that you just told, Cecil. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's like you got to have a silver bullet to kill a vampire, or stake through the heart.
I wish I would have
Yeah.
wrote it out better, but I
Yeah.
wrote like 6 sentences that's horribly misspelled.
I'm like,
And then you got the part about her not being able to touch him. You know, it's kind of like the sex magic in some cults. I mean,
Hey,
that,
Jesse.
But I think that's probably the coolest origin I've ever heard about it.
Get a minute, and I'm gonna say, hey, Tony. Tony is the first Watching Weird fan, and Chassie's probably the second.
Yay!
So, woohoo. I'm happy that they're here. I like to see them.
What did he
Yes.
say about? I saw he made a comment about a
Kurt
movie.
Barlow. By Reggie Nalder in Salem's Lot.
Yeah, the
Oh.
original Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
Tony is the man with all the movies. If anybody wants to know what a good horror movie is, he knows.
Mhm.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He knows all the stuff.
See, and touching on that a little bit, that character is the first impression that I remember of seeing a vampire, like on a movie or whatever. That Nosferatu actually ugly vampire. You know, there was no romanticism there. It was just an evil being. So, and he did do a good job.
Nosferatu. Did you ever watch that show, the Nosferatu or whatever?
I did.
I've watched a couple of episodes, but I haven't finished it.
I like that show. It's good.
Or it's all he knows. Well, I use the myth of the dragger, which is Draugr, which I've got a terrible sinus infection, y'all. It's even worse than my normal Southern accent. So I'm just going to spell it out. But I use that in my stories, and I love it because it is basically a very Nosferatu-looking character. And they rot and smell of death, and to me, they're just like great vampires because nobody wants to see that in a romantic scene.
You're starting to get into when I was researching like the lore, the Chupacabra is in the same kind of hierarchy, I guess, as vampires in that culture.
The
which I thought was
Chupacabra I
crazy.
thought was Puerto Rican.
Yeah, that's where the original Chupacabra started at, and somehow it made it to Texas.
Well, and Tully's put them in Scandinavia.
Did I say
Really?
Scandinavia?
That's where the Draugr come from.
Oh, I wasn't talking about like an area specifically. You just like the descriptor
Oh,
is what
Okay.
kind of triggered my memory that people were comparing Chupacabras to vampires because of the blood
the blood
element.
sucking.
Yeah, the bloodsucker, the goat sucker. Yeah,
If vampires do exist or whatever, you would think they would stink, right? Like they would smell pretty rough.
you
To
think
me,
so.
that gets all into like if you go into the sanguine vampire, or you're going to the psychic vampire, or you go into energy vampires, which, I mean,
Like calling
all of those are very legit. I mean, you have humans who drink blood, and they think that they're vampires. I can't say they're not. I mean, I'm not drinking blood.
I've always heard that this I'm gonna dip down into the conspiracy ditch again for a minute.
Let's just be ourselves. Let's go.
But
Yeah, let's go. Full throttle.
I've always heard that we'll call them reptilians.
Yeah.
But I've always heard that they have a very strong smell to them.
Really.
Yeah.
Well, this is diving into my past here, but my ex-husband was from like down in one of the swampy areas of Mississippi, and
I
he
thought you were
taught
going to
me.
say a reptilian.
No, who
Well,
knows?
he had some of the personality
Yeah,
traits.
he was kind of slimy, but
Yes,
no. But he taught me, and this is the truth because I mean now I know, and when he taught it to me, I recognized what he was saying is like water moccasins have a scent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So do copperheads.
Yeah, so I mean, why wouldn't a vampire?
Well, yeah. As far as the reptilians go, I've always heard that they have a very, very strong scent, and that makes a lot of sense now that you mentioned that. Actually, Hadley.
I have my moments.
Maybe I'm a reptilian, but I always thought it was because I didn't bath but once a week. I don't leave the house.
My people.
What about Elizabeth Bathory? Do you think she was a vampire of some sort, or was she just insane?
I think if you drink blood, you're a vampire. Do I think you have special powers? That's a whole nother thing.
Well,
But I think if you're
person,
I think if you're drinking blood regularly, you're probably a vampire.
normal person would get sick.
Well, see, I was fixing to go there because they say that people that practice cannibalism like regularly eventually go smooth crazy.
Oh yeah.
It changes their brain chemistry. So wouldn't blood do that too if you were regularly partaking?
I think you got to heat it up. Like if you drink it cold, maybe. Like if you drink it warm, it's just a nice, warm, coppery taste.
Yeah, but I think what I'm saying would make you sick is
Like coffee.
like if you're a normal person with normal iron levels and you drink blood, it's going to make you throw up everywhere.
Yeah.
But what if you're someone with an iron deficiency and that
It wouldn't.
but think, and so you find you have a craving for this blood and it makes you feel better, and so you continue to drink it. And
Should we bring up the royal family since we're talking about iron?
Yeah. Yeah.
Prince Charles bought Vlad the Impaler's castle, and from what I understand, he's living there.
God, if we could have bought, that castle in like 2008 was up for sale for only 1.6 million.
Yeah.
only
Really.
Yeah, I'm sure now you couldn't even put a price on it.
Hey, there is a monastery in Italy that is for sale. Last time I looked, it was like $1 million US. That the entire basement level is on a flat piece of quartz crystal.
I'll pitch in.
I would give my left arm for that. So,
I'm gonna hold out for that like Scottish island that they'll pay you to go live on.
yeah, I've looked at that one too.
Speaking of islands up for sale, guess whose island came up for sale yesterday?
Did it really?
Who did he get himself?
Yeah.
Who?
Epstein.
Oh,
Yep, his island's up for sale if you want
talk about some bad juju.
I'd rather
Yeah.
have that Scottish island that they pay you to go to.
Yeah, me too.
There's enough room for all of us in our
I
family.
know we could all go. We could
In the
go
same-
work virtually. Come on.
Then I can wear my kilt and not be looked at strange.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not for wearing the kilt, at least.
There was a lady who bought a house. It's been within the last 2 weeks, but it had a bookcase, and she thought it was like a secret door. She opens it up and sees like an opening in the floor. The floor lifts up, and so the bookcase comes out. The floor lifts up, and it was a staircase that led down into a red theater with red chairs, and there's definitely some crazy stuff going on in that house for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's a thing now where like people will break into your house and like live in your attic, and
I saw a movie about that not too long ago.
it's a real
That's
thing. Like I've
creepy
seen
as
all.
hell.
It disturbs me so bad. They'll move into your house and like,
Hang out in the attic.
yeah, and like when you
I'm
go
gonna
to work,
notice
they
if
go.
my chips are gone.
I'm on it.
I mean, come on. Oh, it ain't. We live very modestly. If any
Yeah.
of my food's gone, I'm gonna know.
Well, you would know anyway. But these, they go into these big houses, but it's like a game for them. They'll video it and put it on YouTube and stuff. But I've seen some. It's so disturbing. So disturbing.
It ain't a good idea. to do
People
that.
will talk about, I felt like I was being watched, and we thought our house was haunted, and it turned out that it was just some hobo that was
Yeah.
living in our attic.
I can say confidently that we all live below the line where anybody would ever want to do that.
Yeah. That's not
break in my house, I dare you.
Yeah. And I'm so paranoid that I put marks on my creamer to see where it was at last time I used it. I would find immediately.
I'd like to say that surprises me, but
I would know immediately if something was off.
One thing I will say about Cecil, he does have an excellent collection of Kramers in his refrigerator. What was that coffee that you had?
Spring Hill Jack.
Really?
No,
Yeah,
you had
Mothman.
the
Red Eye,
Mothman
yeah,
coffee.
the Red Eye Mothman.
That was a really good coffee.
Put a little white chocolate raspberry creamer in there, just a little splash. Makes it delicious. That's what I'm drinking right now, except I've got some Charlie and the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory fudge in it.
Oh man. So, the barista.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It's delicious. It's delicious. It's good stuff.
Okay.
All right, back
Is
to
any-
vampires.
Yeah. Is anybody familiar with there was a game back in like the 80s called Vampyres the Gathering?
You mean the masquerade?
Yeah, there you go. Masquerade. That's what I was thinking.
Apparently, I am.
Yeah.
Um,
But they had a series. It was just like a small series. They were going to see how it went over with the public, and it went really well. But then the main character got killed in a motorcycle accident when they broke to do the filming for the first full season, so they canceled it. But they actually had clans of vampires. There was like the Nosferatu, the Bruja,
that's
the
cool.
Toreador, and stuff like that.
Kind of
And
like the book that you're
yeah,
talking about.
it's based on the book. Yeah, it's based on, because I've got the set of books on my shelf over there. I think I'm missing one, and I still haven't found it. But that's why I watched the series, was because I had the set of books and everything. That it's like the Nosferatu looked like what you imagine Nosferatu to look at. Like the Toreador were considered the beautiful ones. They were classy and things like that. And then they had one that was like a bunch of gang members almost. So like I said, each clan was known for basically their appearance and the way they acted and everything. So that was an interesting take on it too.
I used to love Dark Shadows when I was a kid until that Johnny Depp POS movie came out.
Isn't there a series?
It was
There were
a
two.
soap opera when we was
Yeah,
kids.
it was like a soap opera when I was like little.
Yes, I watched reruns of that with my grandmother and thought it was awesome. And then they did a remake in the 80s, and they started playing the old ones on TBS when they were coming up to it. Those actors sucked.
What's the?
Yeah.
Is it an FX or HBO? I thought there was another series like recently.
There's
That's the one Cecil was talking about.
What we do in the shadows. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's in New Zealand, and everyone I've talked to loves that series. It's very funny.
It's pretty good.
But I mean, it's a spoof. It's definitely comedic.
Well, what made me think of it is Cecil was watching it one day, and it looked funny.
It's hilarious. And I kind of imagine vampires being like that. Like, I like to think of them like if they got turned in like 100 BC Mediterranean, that they really wouldn't advance with the culture too much to current day. You know what I mean? Like they kind of keep their old habits and stuff.
It would
Well,
be
when
cool
you look
to-
at history, have you ever heard of a historical event or something that made you think there are vampires?
Yeah. Saint Germain. I
For
think
sure.
Saint
Ooh,
Germain
yeah.
turned itself into a vampire through alchemy somehow.
Mine is that mass grave of the headless Vikings.
Oh yeah.
Ah.
You told us a story one time that was really creepy about vampires. I think it was you about the ones in Louisiana.
The
The-
Casket Girls
Yeah,
of
the
New
Casket
Orleans.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So the story goes, I'm not going to get into the historical fact because the story's so much better. The story goes that
microphone sounds
do.
great.
my microphone sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more crisp tonight than usual.
Well, this is the one I usually have like on top of my head. So, because y'all can hear my breathing really heavy in it. 'Cause I'm really sick. But, okay, Coffin Girls of New Orleans. So, back in, I think it was like the early 1800s, late 1900s, the king sent over all of these brides to the Louisiana territory. And actually, I think they landed like in Gulfport, Mississippi, Biloxi, and they were shipped over to New Orleans. But these women arrived with these boxes, and they were called caskets, or however you want to say it in French. But so it sounded like casket, and so over time, that's what people thought they arrived with, and that they brought their own caskets, so to speak. And these caskets were heavy because it was laden with their stuff. Well, sorry, my dog started drinking water. It scared me. What's that? It's that person in the attic. They're down.
That's
Um.
right.
Anyway, so they said that over time, like the boxes were empty, and all these people were dying, and they didn't know what was going on. So one of the people, I guess, like the priest at the house these girls were living in, went and like nailed down the windows. And once he did that, the murder stopped. So to this day, they said that the windows are nailed shut, but that in during Hurricane Katrina, that one of the windows burst open. They started having murders again. So they sent over some nails blessed by the Pope and nailed down the windows again, and it
Blessed by
stopped.
blessed by this pope.
No, well, this was during Katrina, so it was
Okay.
the Pope of 2005.
Okay. That might have worked then.
But yeah, I mean, it's a weird story, but
Cecil.
Why not? I mean, it's a pope.
Fair enough.
But they said that the third story, which is where all this is supposedly happened, that it had a brick floor. It did not have a wooden floor. That it locked from the inside out. There's just a lot of little details in the story, but there's like people have said that they go by that place, because there's still like the convent there that these girls supposedly lived, and it's very creepy at night.
I think I got an interesting perspective. So you know how it's hard to think about infinity, like forever.
Yeah.
So if you were a vampire and you were living forever and you're exploring the world, you have two kinds of memory. You have crystallized memory and we'll call it liquid memory, short term and long term. Unless the vampire's brain structure is different, eventually you're going to tack that memory out. So I think probably I don't know, like what in the ancient times people lived to be like 800, like in biblical times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So probably every 800 to 1,000 years, your brain is just going to be like, nope. And everything's going to be new again.
Wouldn't that kind of suck though? Like you gain all this knowledge and it just kind of resets.
It'd be like vampire Alzheimer's. Like you just, as you learn new stuff, like to know that every new thing you learn, it's going to push something completely out of your brain. Like you forget how to eat or something for a minute.
Not the eat thing, but that already happens to me, okay?
Yeah.
My brain is so full.
I think mine's just really light. Just doesn't retain anything.
Okay, I found something. This is for you, Cecil.
Mm.
I found out where it came from. In Bulgaria, vampires were said to start out as ghost-like creatures before they could physically rise from their graves. In its early stage, the vampire could only be seen faintly by the human eye. During the night, however, their forms gave off easily noticeable sparks. In 1863, the village of Dekekuau, something like that, was reportedly plagued by a mob of young, sparkling vampires.
Oh my God.
The vampires attacked villagers, screamed outside their homes, and threw cow poop at pictures of saints. Although the vampires had not yet taken physical form, they could still be seen sparkling in the streets. An old witch eventually decided that enough was enough and went to a local cemetery. When she found their graves, she realized that they must have been escaping through the holes in their tombstones. She sealed the holes, and they never experienced trouble with vampires again. So that's the origin story of your sparkly vampires.
So I have a hard time. I mean, there would have to be a reason for so many cultures to be like, okay, we're digging up the body. we're cutting the head off, we're putting it in between the legs, or you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like that'd be very difficult. Like, if we were having poltergeist activity in our house and we're in, the year 1500,
Right.
my first thought isn't going to be, oh, Jack died down the street 2 weeks ago. Let's go dig him up and cut his head off. like there would have to be a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's one of those things where, like, they say that everything wasn't connected back in the day because of water and whatnot. But it kind of goes back to, what we always refer to. Like, I feel like there was a cross-contamination of culture. Basically,
Mhm.
like, the whole culture
Like-
was one thing across the world at one
Like
point.
Tartaria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that goes back to that is probably some kind of culturalistic thing that they just did. Like, if somebody pissed them off or owed them, like, a chicken or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about that going around the world. The Mayans, part of their sacrifice with the people that they were going to, people that were going to be the sacrifice, and they're going to forcibly rip their heart out of their chest and offer it to the gods. They would have that person drink blood before they did that to them.
Mhm.
And
That's
then
gangster.
in the Middle East, you had all the human sacrifices, with the Baal worship and things like that. So I'm just wondering how far back the actual origins might go with some of this, and it
Yeah.
kind of changed and people added to it over this millennia.
Like that's very interesting to think about. Like, maybe all of the base origin stories, maybe it all goes back to that. Like, what we know of history is obviously a lie prior to 1900, which
Right.
we've talked about before.
1920 probably.
So I'm thinking, these could be real figures that are on the underground now instead of, walking amongst your everyday man.
Yeah. That's
It's like it goes back to, like, there's some kind of effort by what we would refer to as elites that to control everything and make it feel like we're not a special type of thing.
Mhm.
Do y'all know who Nimrod is?
Yeah.
I've been called a Nimrod before.
Fair enough. So I forget the full history of Nimrod, but Nimrod was a product of the Nephilim, if my memory serves me right.
Yeah, he's kind of like a demigod or something like that.
And he was a giant, kind of like Goliath. And he was one that he didn't die. He just kind of went into a slumber, kind of like a meditative state, and his body wouldn't decompose.
Okay, kind of like he's in stasis.
Yes, exactly. So how we talked about where was it at? The red-headed giant?
Yes.
Where was that at?
Yes,
In
sir.
Afghanistan, Kandahar.
So apparently that whole area, the main mission was to recover Nimrod's body, and they found his body before the giant, though, with red hair. They found his body during the Gulf War.
Okay.
Was Nimrod the one that there was a video circulating around of a purple skinned giant, like, laying in a
With gold all around?
gold all around him and some kind of jelly?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And apparently that was an old video.
Can't find that no more.
Some of there's like these ancient gold chalices and stuff all around his body, and he's like, he looks like he's asleep with a sword, and apparently that's how they found him. But then he has been woken up, according to we'll say the truth community. But yeah, and apparently he hates people. Like, he looks at humans as a lesser civilization.
Could be.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
I
wonder.
was going to say, I don't disagree with that.
I don't disagree with that at all. But it's like I was going back to what I was saying. Like, they probably suppress vampires, big like creatures that we refer to as Bigfoot. They're probably pretty intelligent beings and things like that.
Hmm.
I think they do it just to make you feel like you're just random and like because if there was other creatures like that, you'd be like, well, there's something special about
Well,
us.
that's more
So,
divides that they can put in the better.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a yeah. I'm
Well, Max, I would love to hear about that.
mm,
Oh, absolutely.
Are we
mm,
So
talking
would
about?
I.
I'm not.
I've seen New Orleans vampires, but I don't consider those vampires.
I've seen what
Well,
we
Or
call
Well,
meth
I,
vampires.
I have seen
ladies of the
energy
night,
vampires.
Cecil.
They miss all the teeth except the two fang teeth. Come
yeah.
on, honey.
No, I've definitely seen energy vampires.
yeah. Well, I mean, is when you get into the different types of vampires. I mean, I've known people that they feed off of energy, whether
Hmm.
it's psychically or just like in a room.
Mhm.
Um, some people feed off of sexual energy,
Right.
and you could term those people vampires, but I
Hmm.
have never met someone that actually drinks blood
We
that I
need to
know
pull.
of.
We need to pull Max in on this. I want to hear this story.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Oh.
Max, you want to join us? We'll send you a link.
Get your headset ready, Max.
Oh man, was that in New Orleans where they I forget what it is.
New Orleans
They,
was. I went
New
to
Orleans. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I went to a vampire ball there with the folks there who actually drink blood and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like yeah. You were talking about that earlier, and it was
Dude.
Wow.
And
Dude,
y'all know that's author Max Hawthorne, right?
yeah,
Hmm.
oh
that's
my.
awesome.
That's freaking cool. Yeah, freaking cool. I can say
Whoa.
freaking.
Digging
Yeah.
its.
I think I've already dropped 2 F-bombs. So is
So,
that our
so when you
limit?
say it was
Digging its
digging
way
its
out of the
way out of
grave.
the grave, what did it look human? I'm just wondering if it was like that lady who got injected by the pufferfish venom and was trying to get back out.
Like
Yeah.
that actual lady that got bit by the fly in Pikeville and buried alive.
Well, back in the late 1800s, it got so bad that it got to the point where people would put a bell on their loved
Yeah.
one's fingers in the grave and
Um,
sit and
I
watch.
want that done. Well,
Imagine how terrifying it would have been to be walking through a graveyard and hear bells jingling.
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. We really need you on here, Max.
Yeah, Max, you want to join us? Just
Oh,
let us
man.
know. I'll send you a link.
Good night. Yeah, that would
I
that
told
would
Amanda
end.
that I told Amanda that if they don't show her my brain during my autopsy, that I definitely have to have a bell.
Can you take care of that, Hadley? I am totally locked up except for this screen.
Let me see.
I'm locked up because it's so friggin' cold in here.
Send some of that here.
I guarantee it. It's cold, man.
Really?
Y'all are in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's
Oh, man,
they're
goodness.
giving snow.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we were 70 degrees here today.
It
Yeah.
snows 6 inches in the morning, and by 1 o'clock it'd be 75 degrees, and
It's
then
supposed to be
it'd
it's
be like
supposed to
20.
snow this weekend, and then it's supposed to be like 80 on Wednesday.
Yeah, that sounds right. There was
Wow.
one day I don't remember when it was. I think it was last summer where it snowed literally like 8 inches, and then the next day it was 73 degrees.
Yeah, I
was
remember that.
Christ. And then it dropped to 20. Love it. And I think you gotta be a vampire to live around here. Honestly.
A whiskey vampire.
Whiskey vampire is what we used to be called. We only came out at night.
Have y'all ever heard of is it the Chinese hopping vampire?
No, that sounds
No.
interesting though.
I had
They-
not until Jonathan Mayberry.
There's a movie. I think it's 1985. It's dubbed, but it's pretty funny. If y'all like that sort of thing. But they're hopping. They're hopping after their prey. Pop, pop, pop.
Like crickets. Like grasshoppers. That'd be fun.
Oh,
We didn't even bring up probably the scariest vampire movie that I've watched in this decade or last was 30 Days and 30 Nights.
Oh, that's a favorite. Did y'all see Strain?
Yeah, I watched some of it.
I think I watched the first season.
I watched
Yeah.
it. Yeah. The vampires in 30 Days and 30 Nights, those are the top that I really like. They're just crazy looking.
Yeah, I feel like that one really hit home with the horror aspect.
Yeah. And
I
then
haven't
you got
seen
Josh
that one.
Hartnett. Josh Hartnett in his prime.
Um. Okay.
He's
The
grabbing
movie.
some water and he's going to jump on. This
Awesome.
is
I
kind
want
of
to hear
awesome.
the story.
Uh-huh.
That's what his one of the best interviews I've ever done. I just love to hear his fishing stories because I love to fish. Things y'all didn't know about me: I love to deep sea fish.
Ah.
I like to fish, but not in the deep sea.
I've
I
done
do.
some things
Well, I
in
mean, coast.
Start pulling up Leviathan.
Yeah.
I'll tell
Oh
him to
my
leave you
God.
alone, Kelly.
with all the bombing with all the bombing and stuff they was doing out in the ocean last year. It's like, I don't know what the
I
fuck.
hadn't been in years, but I grew up going down to Grand Isle, Louisiana, and fishing.
Okay. Yeah, I've never done that.
We got on a boat one time and got out of the side of land and I freaked out.
You get that
Really?
that thing. People, that's a legit diagnosis. People are afraid of water on all sides like that.
I don't know if that's what it is, but I was like 8, and when we was out there, I was like, no, we need to go back.
Some people can't play that game Subnautica because of that.
Huh. Oh, I love it. The only game my husband got me a set of VR glasses a few years ago, and the only game I played was one where you stayed underwater swimming around looking for stuff.
It sounds like Subnautica.
It may have been. Like I said, I can't remember what it was, but like I said, I downloaded dozens of them, and that's the only one I ever did anything with.
The strain was awesome. It had me till the man's penis fell off in the toilet. Do you remember that?
I must have stopped
At that
before
time, I was like,
episode.
"This is something totally new."
Ooh, will that let you?
Till the man's penis fell off in the toilet. Max has got a slight delay there. I think I added him.
Yeah,
You did.
Welcome, Max. How are you doing?
Yeah, I stopped when I heard something about penises falling off. I'm good.
I was talking about the strain, the TV
Oh.
show that the guy was turning into a vampire.
Yeah, I thought I was in the wrong place.
No, sorry. Sorry for the off-color humor.
This
Yeah.
is why we can't get sponsors.
Let's hear about this story, man. I want to hear like this in detail.
No problem. But I think it sounds like there's either a loop or feedback.
Yes. Do you have the volume on your phone and have us pulled up on the app or anything?
I just clicked on the link.
If you still have like a window open somewhere with the live stream going, it's probably looping.
Yeah, it's looping.
Yeah, like what I just heard myself say was like 30 seconds ago. Okay, so let me shut that and see if that makes a difference. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There we go. Yeah.
Okay,
that
cool.
fixed it.
Cool.
Yeah, Facebook was open. All that. I apologize. I didn't mean to horn in on your show. I was just
No, I'm
going
when
through
you
there and I
go,
saw it.
I'm
Great to
always
have you.
interested in hearing some crazy shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Agreed.
You're always welcome to join us. We just have a good time.
Thank you. Okay. Not a favorite topic of mine, to be perfectly honest, and I didn't really talk about it since it happened, except for like family and stuff. Somebody from another show convinced me I should put it in a book that I did recently that was out, and I'm not here to pitch a book or anything like that. But so I did, and so since it's out there, I guess I'll talk about it real quick. So this happened when I was 19. which means that's about 37 years ago. Okay. I guess 1984, something like that. The details are all in there. But used to live in Southwest Philly, and there's an old cemetery from the 1800s there called Mount Moriah Cemetery, which was, I'm gonna say, 3-4 miles from where our house was, on a guess. But that was pretty much all through woods, part of what's called Fairmount Park. So it's like kind of like Central Park, but fairer. Get it? Like South America. It's like North America but South, you know. But so we used to have a Doberman Pinscher at the time named Caesar, and I was like this young 19-year-old wannabe jock who lifted weights and did karate and all this stuff, and I thought I was indestructible and all that, you know how boys will be boys. And I had this really bad habit of taking the dog for late night summer walks, and we would leave the house literally like midnight, you know, and go down and work our way down to Fairmount Park and walk around the edge of that for I don't know how long it was, a mile, and then go into the woods and go another mile or more through there. And then that would butt up against the edge of the cemetery, like the park met the cemetery. Okay. And at least this is a long time ago. I mean, the cemetery's closed since then, and I don't know if they're trying to reopen it. But so this place had a big wrought iron fence around it, like, you know, it's from the 1800s, as you can imagine. Wrought iron was supposed to keep the ghosts in, or something like that, you know. So,
Okay.
and the only place it didn't have fencing was where it met the woods, and I guess that's because the hill that went up into the cemetery was literally like in excess of 45 degrees. Some places it was sheer, like vertical.
So the
So
ghosts didn't have the cardio to get up it or something.
yeah, you had to like literally. So, you know, the dog and I would come up this wall of dirt and I'd be grabbing onto like tree roots and stuff like that and climb up and get into the lip and get into the cemetery like past midnight, you know, to do our thing, which was nothing lascivious. And then we would just walk along, and there was a gravel path that was designed for vehicles, and that would border that, and we'd follow it around for I don't know how long, 500 yards or something like that. I mean, it's forever. But and then the woods would flatten out, and we'd cut through the woods for a few hundred yards into a town called Yaden, and then we'd be in civilization, and we'd follow that all the way back and go home. So that was like our thing, okay? And when you're in a cemetery like past midnight, there's nobody there. At least there's nobody supposed to be there, you know? It had a few lights, as I recall. It wasn't completely pitch black. And this one particular night, I don't know if it was the third or fourth time we'd done this, we were in the cemetery, and as we're walking along, I started hearing this sound, this rhythmic, slow, repeating sound. And it literally sounded like, I'm going to try and do it like this, like, and it would repeat, you know, like every 4 or 5 seconds, whatever it was. And I'm like, what is that? You know, it was dead quiet out, you know, late summer, everything. And the dog, he's like looking around, but he can't make sense of it or anything. And, you know, I keep hearing it. And as we're walking along, now we're walking real slow because I don't know what I'm hearing. And the hair on the back of my neck starts going up like this. And then I'm like slapping myself. And I'm like, you know, you've been watching too many creature double feature movies, which were, around Philadelphia was, you know, the thing back then. Creature double feature, you know, you have these old movies in the 50s and 60s and stuff. And I said, you know, you need to like get a grip on yourself, man up, whatever, you know, this type of stuff. But the sound kept coming and coming. And it was getting gradually a little bit louder and louder. And pretty soon you could start to feel it through the soles of your feet. Like it was like a vibration, you know, like, and I'm like, man, that sounds like something digging, you know? And once again, I'm like, all right, like just stop it, you know, like, you know, be a man. And eventually I realized, I pinpointed it. It was coming from this big, old, ugly, dark tombstone that was right off the edge of the path. Couldn't have been more than 10 feet from the edge of the path. It was like, I mean, it looked pretty almost black at night. It was probably like a dark gray, like a granite or something like that. But and the sound was coming from the stone, or at least the vicinity of the stone. And so I'm like staring at it, and I keep hearing it and stuff. And then the dog, he's looking and looking and looking. He has no idea what's going on. And something just comes right up through the ground, literally like boom, just bursts
Like
up
just
soil.
explodes through the ground.
It just pushed its way through the dirt about 3 feet in front of the stone. Okay. And I saw it come up through the ground. Okay. And it was, and it wasn't a whole thing, if that's what you're thinking. And I saw it, and I literally out loud said, like, holy God, like that, because I saw it. All right. And it was this hand, literally a hand. It had four, it looked like a human hand, sort of. Okay. But, it was much bigger than my hand, and I'm 6'1", and it was like in the moonlight and the whatever lighting they had there at midnight, it looked like a pale grayish, like in terms of the skin, and its skin looked a little loose fitting, like it was kind of not healthy, let's say, or something. And
So
it had
definitely not grave robbers or anything like that. Like it's legit coming out.
no, it was legit, and nobody would expect some crazy white boy in his Doberman Pinscher to be wandering through a cemetery at 12:30 in the morning, okay, or something like that. And its nails, I remember I saw its fingernails, and they were like very jagged looking, and I assumed that was from digging. I don't know, but I saw it, and I said that, and then I'm like looking at it, and I'm blinking and blinking and blinking, trying to clear my vision. And I'm trying to convince myself that this is not what I'm seeing, that it's not. I try to tell myself that's a groundhog or a squirrel, or like Bugs Bunny that forgot to take that turn at Albuquerque. Something, anything but what I'm staring at. And this is all happening in your mind. It's split second, and I'm looking, and it's not changing, and it's not going away, and it's definitely this big ass hand. Okay, and my heart is now going, bah, 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 as you can imagine, and stuff. And when it first came up, and if I was on video, you see this, the hand was like splayed out, like the fingers like wide, like oof, like that, and then it kind of sagged, like it was leaning forward, and it wasn't moving. And I figured, okay, this thing must be tired. That's what you think about it in retrospect, at least, and stuff. At the time, I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking like what the hell am I staring at, and this type of stuff. And so it started to move again. Okay. And that's when I knew I was going to die if I didn't get the heck out of there. I mean, this thing had the strength to dig through however many feet of compacted soil was on top of it. And if you've ever seen like that show where they tested a guy in a coffin, like one of those Mythbusters, and they just put like 2 or 3 feet of dirt on top of his coffin, and it started collapsing in. He was crying for his mother, and they rescued him. Remember? Did you see that one? Okay, so imagine how much weight. I mean, I don't know how far down this thing was, but just to claw through that. I mean, its strength must have been astonishing. And based on the size of the hand, this thing had to be like 7 feet tall. I mean,
you know what this is giving me vibes of?
Mafia hit.
Well, not a mafia hit. Almost like a Jeepers Creepers top, like mythical creature.
I have had
not mythical to Max.
Past my head. Okay, past my head. I have in college and senior year, I found a freshman who hung himself in the dorm and had been dead for 2 days. I came face to face with him in the dark. Okay, I've done the bungee jump, and I'm not a heights person. Okay, none of that was as scary as seeing this thing. They were nothing by comparison. Okay, and I knew if I didn't get away from there, we were both going to die. I mean, he was going to snap the Doberman's neck like it was a chicken. And I had a nightstick with me because there were packs of feral dogs in the park that had been attacking people. It was like in the news. And I was going to hit the thing with a stick, and it was going to do nothing, and I was going to die. And, it's the ideal place, if you think about this, for this thing to be. I mean, like, it looked old as hell because, I mean, it's a graveyard, for God's sake. So it's like, they're constantly burying people, I mean, like, God knows if there was skeletons in there where it was, if, or if it moves from place to place, or I don't know what. I'm not making this up. And I mean, like, I researched it. They had found dead people in the cemetery in years since then, all sorts of stuff. They blamed it on some gang. They're killing people and stuff. So, anyway, so that's what happened. So now I'm standing there, and, like, I had to get out of there. And I knew if I ran straight and went through, like, the woods where it leveled off, I had a feeling as soon as this thing's head came out and it saw me that it was game over. That there was no way. to get out of there. And so I turned and I looked down the hill, and I'm telling you, this is a steep hill. It's almost sheer. And I had this vision of this scene from one of those Clint Eastwood movies, the one with like with the orangutan, where like this guy is like stalking Clint, like some cop, and he comes face to face with a rattlesnake, and he says, "Feet don't fail me now," like that. I literally said that out loud. As God is my witness, I said, "Feet don't fail me now," and I dove down that hill. Okay, the dog up until this point was frozen in fear. He was just like not moving. I don't know if he didn't know what he was looking at, or he was terrified, or what. And I dragged him down that hill so fast he was choking. I could hear him behind me going, okay, and everything was moving in slow motion, which saved my life because I was dodging trees and low branches and jumping over boulders and fallen logs at light speed. I mean, it was like down a hill. I mean, picture if you're scared to death, how fast you can run if you're a 19-year-old athlete. But now picture you're running down a hill that's like 45, 50 degrees or more. I mean, it's like you're falling practically, And then I hit level ground and I ran for my life. I ran like a mile or more through the woods until I literally collapsed in the dirt, in mud. And I was like... And then I caught my breath for like 10 seconds and I jumped up. I looked back to see if it was coming or not. And I was afraid I was going to see it, And then I wasn't there and I ran all the way home. Like the little pig that goes wee, wee, wee all the way home. I didn't actually wee. I don't think I did at least. Okay. And then I rushed into the house and I told my two brothers, because I was grabbing like crosses, crucifixes, spraying. I was like sprinkling garlic powder on myself. I mean, it sounds silly, but I was doing it. I'm not kidding. And they were like, I told them what happened. I was like petrified. And they were like, you know what? You're an idiot. You imagined the whole thing. It was a squirrel. It was whatever it was and stuff like that. And I'm like hugging my crucifix and my Bible. I'm like, no.
Did you? I was just gonna say, did you go back like the next day and check out the grave or anything?
Are you insane? Dude, that was 37 years ago, and I have never gone back. Okay, and they said to me, "You're an idiot. You imagined the whole thing. We know the area because we'd all gone through there in the daytime, okay, and stuff, because there was like a fishing spot past further down." And they were like, "You just come with us, and we're going to go right there, and we're going to show you made this whole thing up." And I was like, "Screw that." I said, "I am not going back." I was like, "I have never." I said, "You want to go? I will describe the exact spot. I'll describe the stone. You'll find it." I said, "And when you don't come back, and you won't, I'll tell Mom what happened to you." And then they looked at each other, and they didn't want to go. Okay, but because literally they would not have come back. This thing was like, I don't know if it feeds intermittently or whatever it was. Okay, but I saw what I saw. I'm not making it up. And this is not like, if this is what these things look like. I mean, some people are, "Oh, it was a ghoul. It was this. Somebody said," but a strigoi, based on the historical description, sounded like it. Okay. But if this is what they look like, then you can forget Tom Cruise and you can forget Brad Pitt and your sparkly Edward Cullen. This is a predator, pure and simple. And it is like a subterranean predator. And this is what it does. Okay. And I would not go back there unless it was broad daylight and I had ground penetrating radar and a military trained team with me capable of dealing with this thing. Okay. Because if it's still there, and I mean, I would think it would move from place to place inside the cemetery at least. I mean, nobody wants to sleep in the same bed for 37 years, but I mean, at least it would show the ground had been disturbed or something dug its way out. I mean, there'd be evidence, but I would not want to be there if it was there and it could come out in the daylight and it was pissed off because it was terrifying.
I have a question about it. So this happened in the 80s, and during the 80s, the media was pushing the satanic panic basically a lot, right? Do you think that's possible that, because anytime that they're pushing something, there's some kind of little truth behind it, because, there were probably kids that were out doing stupid stuff, trying to raise stupid things. Do you think it's possible that some kids might have went out there and did some kind of stupid saint-like ritual and accidentally awoken like a demon or something?
I don't know. I can tell you this. It wasn't a hoax because the soil like there was grass growing over it and everything.
That's the only reason I asked that a second ago, Max.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if
Yeah, there was no
like
leaves. You know, it wasn't like somebody could be hiding under there or anything like that. I saw chunks of soil fly up around this as it ripped through the dirt. Okay, so it wasn't like it was coming out of there regularly. I think it had been there a long time.
because
I mean, at
even
least long enough.
like the graveyard caretaker or whatever, the next day he comes in and he's like, "What?" It looks like a
yeah.
bomb exploded out of the ground.
Yeah, and then they clean it up to make sure he doesn't want to get in trouble, like in that Friday the 13th movie or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I mean, I got the impression that like it wasn't like its regular thing. I suspect maybe it heard me like a week or 2 weeks earlier walking through there and stuff, and it was like, you know, yeah, like and
Like
a
a-
couple times, and maybe it said, you know what, you know, this is too good to pass up. I'm just
Like
gonna,
a timed prey.
yeah,
I'm
you know, like
with-
Yeah, that's
like DoorDash, the 80s.
DoorDash.
You know, and believe me, my dash, I would have set world record. Okay, if somebody had a timer on me, I always thought it was. I pictured it at the top of the hill, looking down, going, "Look at that boy run!" You know, like this. I would have been like,
He deserves to live after that performance.
I mean,
Yeah.
if the adrenaline had not slowed everything down, I would have died because I would have cracked my head on something or broke my neck on fell over a rock, something. It was crazy. It was like a slow motion video game, and you know everything was like almost lit up. I was like dodging and weaving and jumping and while running full speed down this big hill.
You know, the descriptor of the vampire, or I forget what you called it. I don't think you called it a vampire.
Strigaloid.
Yeah.
Uruguay?
There is a movie where that description is like dead on. And it's called Blood Vessel. I think it's a Shudder original.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of that description, like the loose skin, the rigid nails, and everything like that.
Something that hasn't fed in a long time.
Yeah, well, in this particular movie, I think the Nazis had captured it in World War II and was just kind of keeping it on the low.
Wow. Well, you know what? The fact that what you just said about that it hadn't fed in a while, that might explain why its skin was like that.
Yeah.
You know, like it was like kind of shrivelly looking or something.
Yeah, it went into hibernation for periods, kind of like how cicadas go underground.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
weird.
a cicada. Let me tell you.
yeah, cicadas do that.
That is
Yeah,
absolutely terrifying. No,
I,
Well,
I
Max, I'm sorry to butt in here, but to me, it'd be really interesting to see at that gravesite who was actually buried there, the name that's on the headstone, and see if you can find out any history on that person.
yeah, I'd have to go back though. Yeah, and like you know, I've jokingly asked a few people after I told them the story, and they're like, "Nope, don't want to go. No, no, no."
Yeah.
Asked my brother; he's not interested. He's a tough guy. You know, the wife certainly didn't want a piece of that action. You know, and
Right.
there's a big part of me that's like, well, this thing doesn't have a computer and the internet, and it's not listening to this podcast. You understand?
Right.
So it's not like it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to come get you now, kind of thing.
Mhm.
How fast do you reckon you can run now? If you can run slower than me, I'll go with you.
I've got a good buddy that lives outside of Philadelphia. If I ever go to visit him, I'm going to hit you up to see where it's at.
Hmm. Yeah, they. If I mean, there's a whole chapter in. I mean, is it okay if I mention the name?
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
alive, actually.
So, yeah, the last book I wrote was actually a whole big cryptid research book called Monsters and Marine Mysteries, and it's mainly focused on lake and marine sightings and stuff. And I interviewed some amazing people that are still alive. And by the way, if you guys want to get them on your show, I could put in a good word. People have seen stuff from the 70s, even like the Southside Sea Monster and stuff like that, and that giant turtle that Gary LaMotta filmed in the late 60s.
I would love to get the giant turtle guy on.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
He saw it, and but I was encouraged to tell the couple sightings which I had. I've seen some stuff. I saw a Bigfoot swimming in Connecticut in a lake, And my daughter and I saw this wing thing, like some sort of winged. We don't know what it was. She thought it was a fairy. That was like about 2016. But the vampire thing, was like I had to do all the research for it about the cemetery and things that have happened there since then and all this other stuff. And it's all in there, photos, the whole 9 yards. But I have not gone back, and I really don't feel like going back because, that's how this thing, like I'm just worried that it's going to be able to latch on to me somehow, like psychically or something like that. You understand? And I don't need something like that tracking me down, and all that. I know it sounds like stupid, like a
You
wuss.
said it was
No.
You said it was Monster Marine Mysteries.
Yeah, Monsters and Marine Mysteries.
Then Hadley, you've already told me about this because it's already in my cart. I'm gonna go ahead and buy it.
He's amazing. I was telling him before you got on that it's one of my favorite interviews was when you came on. It was just me and you, and I love to hear the stories about the marine stuff, the marine mysteries.
Yeah, it's I prefer talking about them than talking about the cemetery thing because as I'm talking, I'm like rehashing it inside my head, and all that, and and it's like when you see some like Finding Bigfoot, they had like this young boy, and he was like 14 years old, who was terrorized by like a pair of Sasquatches that were hunting deer, and he was hunting deer and stuff, and they scared the crap out of him, and when they brought him back to the spot, he was pale and shaking, and he could barely talk, and he wasn't making it up. He had this terrifying experience. It's that kind of thing, but in the dark, for God's sake. I know what I was thinking. I mean, who goes walking through a cemetery at midnight just for the hell of it?
We used to do
I
it.
used to do that a lot when I was younger.
Well,
But we're hillbillies. We do stuff like that.
my grandmother's sister lived right next to one, and that was what we would dare each other to do. But I mean, you only had to get like 1 foot in, and you won. So
We took a
never
whole
actually went through.
summer one year, and we went to every cemetery we could, and we would take a 30-pack and find a good place to sit down and just observe, because people were talking about like glowing graves and like some places you're supposed to hear bullets flying past your head and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Well, the neighborhood around there is pretty bad, so you could have the bullets probably. But one of the murders that I investigated, they said they found this guy dead, and he had a noose around his neck. He was stuffed in a like a crypt or something like that, and they claimed that it was a gang called the Warlocks that killed him. And then they found another guy that was in the same area or same grave, crypt or whatever, shortly after that. But they don't tell you details. Like, was the guy's throat ripped out?
Right.
Did he have like giant, munch mark on him and all the blood drained from his body? I mean, inquiring minds want to know, Like,
Well, they're not going to tell you all of that because then they'd have to admit it.
all I know is I just that one moment, as soon as it came through the ground and I saw it, I had 20/20 vision. I was looking right at it, and my brain just went into denial. It was like, no, that is not what you're looking at. Stop it. No, that's Bugs Bunny. That's Wile E. Coyote. That's somebody. That's anything but what the heck, that kind of stuff. And it just, it's just crazy.
Well, I would have been accusing somebody of pouring pudding down my pants. That would have got me, man. There's no way I could have. No, I would have probably died on the spot.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how your mind wants to just make something fit anything, Just
I mean,
whenever you see what you're not supposed to see.
Yeah, I just, that's what happens. When I saw that thing swimming in the lake in Connecticut, which is not about vampires, so I shouldn't go there. But when I saw the whole arm come up out of the water, and it was like this giant, hairy, muscular human arm, but covered with fur, your brain starts going, what am I looking at here? And you start trying to, orangutan? Does somebody around here have orangutan? A big orangutan? But yes, but that's my vampire story, guys. So
yeah, we should do an episode on water dwellers at some point and bring you back on.
Dude, that was cool.
I would love that.
It'd be my pleasure. I'm not trying to hog in on your stuff, guys, or anything.
Oh no, no,
You're
this has
welcome
been
anytime.
awesome.
We just have a good
Yeah,
time.
these are just round table discussions that we do on Fridays about topics.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing too. I'm just hogging in on them. So
This is fun here. I mean, just having a conversation.
We need to get into why they've been nuking the ocean lately.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, Max. What's up with that?
what do you think about that?
I hadn't heard of this, to be perfectly honest.
Well, you let us know when you want to talk about that. We'll have you back.
Some food for thought.
Yeah, they've
I
been
mean-
making the ocean a lot lately.
Like subterranean tests or
Yeah, test.
submarine tests, like better.
No.
So there was in the mainstream news, there was some kind of gas leak or something. It looked like a portal to hell in the middle of the ocean.
Big round fire that they was trying to put out with water.
Kind of,
Yeah,
like my shorts after I saw that thing. It was kind of
Yeah. So there's this
Get it?
big pillar of fire in the middle of the ocean, and they're using water to try to put it out.
But it's in the ocean.
And
a man-made thing.
they're saying it was like a oil or a gas leak. I forget which one it was.
But from something that we made or a natural deposit?
Like a deposit, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect ring of fire.
Yeah, it was.
And they were
And
trying to put it
they're
out
trying
with
to
seawater.
Put that out with a nuke?
Well, they didn't nuke in the same spot. So that dropped out of the news, and then a couple weeks later, they're like, military testing nuclear arsenal in ocean.
It was like,
Wait,
it was like 40
hold on.
miles from there.
Wait, I'm confused. So there's a ring of fire, which sounds like just some sort of tectonic issue or something, on the bottom of the ocean, right? And it's already on the bottom of the ocean.
Yep.
And they're trying to put it out with more water.
On the surface of the ocean. Yeah.
Oh, to the surface of the ocean.
Yeah. So there's these boats on the surface of the ocean,
right?
Spraying water where
on the ocean.
On the ocean. So it's completely submerged. This has got to be the U.S. government at work here, because nobody else is possibly that intelligent.
Maybe if we use fresh water on it.
I don't know, but I mean, it would seem to me that testing or setting off thermonuclear devices in the ocean would have the potential to create enormous.
I found it. Here, I'm gonna share. It almost looks like it's CGI. It really does.
But it's on the bottom.
Is this the ring of fire, or is this the nuke?
This is the surface where the fire was coming up.
Oh.
Is there a Johnny Cash song you can play with this?
Well, we'll under a burning ring of fire.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're spraying water on it.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
So unrelated. So this happens. This gets out of the news pretty quick, and then like 3 weeks later, the military's like, nuclear tests happening in the ocean. And let me see if I can find a video of that real quick, and I'll share it again.
Is there a location for this?
The Gulf, wasn't it?
Okay, so apparently it was an undersea pipeline, is what they said this one was. Let me.
A pipeline. So that sounds like something man-made then.
Yeah. So it says.
It's been so long ago. I think that was before COVID.
No, it was last year in July, and it says.
Well, we've been locked up for 5 years now.
It just says in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, yeah, I totally missed that. I live on the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, you should go outside more often.
Tony is saying that. Thanks for sharing, Max. That was really fascinating. He used to live in Philly, and he's going to have to check out your novels. That monsters are his favorites. And trust me, Tony knows monsters. And he is a very loyal reader. We love him very much.
Well, then, if he's met my mother-in-law, I will be very. She's scarier than that thing in the cemetery. But thank you. It was my pleasure. Yeah, I just, if you're setting off a nuclear device, I would think the potential to cause a tidal wave, a tsunami, would be high. So, what it doesn't, I don't understand that. I mean, it's really, I mean, there's a big chance of that, unless you're trying to test that as a weapon to cause tsunamis to attack foreign power, or unless there's something down there that you feel you've got to use a nuclear weapon
That
against.
that's what
I've
I'm
read,
thinking.
yeah, that all the USO stuff. I mean, some of those have been reported to be enormous, many times the size of an aircraft carrier.
I have a fear that it might be some kind of Titan because
Okay, I found the other one. So then this happens. So that's a boat here.
Wow.
They had a smaller. I'm assuming it was a drone, but there's other videos of this where it shows warships that look like ants compared to this explosion.
Yeah, you'd want to see something because that could be a depth charge right there, based on the size of the waves.
Yeah, this isn't a good video. I'm just kind of doing it off the cuff. But this and other videos, it looks like, I don't know, like the size of a yacht or something.
Uh-huh.
And then there's warships that might be the size of that white part right there.
Okay.
But yeah, all this stuff kind of happened in succession last year. Out of the news quick because, I'm sure they don't want people to care about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, really. God forbid.
Yeah.
We should all go hang out in the cemetery.
See,
Not happening.
oh man, the cemetery, that used to be the spot to go parking, man. You knew there wasn't going to be anybody there.
I've always heard that in the newer history anyway, have had to keep like giant creatures away from mainland. And that's kind of the conspiracy there was some sort of Leviathan, like huge, like unimaginably huge sea creature.
This came not long after that guy from like one of the alphabet companies said that they were trying to open up a portal to speak with the old ones with their computers. Like,
Y'all got to read his book.
Yeah.
You got to read his book.
I mean, I can give you one tidbit that goes with that. And that is that one of the guys I interviewed named Demetrius, him and two of his friends, they were down in Florida in 2014, I think it was, for his birthday. And they were on a fishing boat, which was like 55 feet long, I think, if memory serves. I'm trying to do this from memory, so don't hold me to the exact details, but they were a couple miles offshore and fishing, drift fishing. And as they were sitting there, a tentacle 30 feet long, just a piece they saw, came to the surface like a giant swimming snake, and it came towards them, and it started touching the side of their boat, like right by them, like looking down. Okay. And he said this thing was a yard thick at the thickest point where it immersed back into the water. It was an octopus tentacle. It was like dark reddish brown on top, white below, suckers. They saw it plain as day. 3 guys. They were not drunk, high, or anything like that. And they thought it was perfectly normal, touching the boat. They said it was curious. They didn't feel threatened. And then it retracted. It went under. They said they saw where the tentacle connected to the animal, the shadowy form. There was more tentacles down there, and they saw its outline. And they told me it was 80 or 90 feet long. That's compared to the size of the boat. Okay. And then it just kind of swam away. And he told me this in general conversation because he thought octopuses always get that big. And I'm like, they do not get that big. Okay. I said, and you're sort of right about the curious thing, but that's because octopi have chemoreceptors in their suckers, taste buds. So this thing must have been drawn by whatever they were using for bait, and it sees this boat sitting there and thought, is this a sleeping whale, or a dead whale? Either way, it's big enough to kill it and eat it, and it's testing the boat, touching it, tasting it to see if it's edible. Then they figured it wasn't, and it pulled away and it took off. If it had, if God forbid, hit, like if they bled something that ran down the side of the boat and it touched that, and then it grabbed onto the whole boat, and it was wrapped around it and stuff, and then it grabbed a person by mistake. It might be like, okay, here's an hors d'oeuvre, at least this type of stuff. That's how people get in trouble. But they said when they reported this to either the Coast Guard or the harbor master, he wasn't sure who they made the call to. They were told, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, it's been here for a few days. We know all about it."
Wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that makes me feel like lore such as the Bermuda Triangle
Mhm.
is less about metaphysical stuff and more about
Something real.
like a danger zone for something
stuff.
that yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the water, things can get much bigger than they can on land. And these guys were quite adamant about what they saw. I thought it was so irresponsible for somebody to tell them, "Yeah, we know it's been here for a few days. People reported it and stuff like that." And that was around the time of the Sanibel sea serpent sighting, there's a video of it. And I did a kind of a I don't want to I don't want to say a debunk, because it wasn't a debunk, but I discovered that the video of the Sanibel sea serpent that's on YouTube had been altered. Key frames have been fogged to stop you from seeing stuff. See, so and I put all that in the book. You can see the frames, and I unfogged them, or I should say, I treated them so you could see the fogging box. Okay, see what they covered. Okay, but it's definitely been altered. But that thing grabs a manatee and pulls it right under. You see it. You see it wrap around the manatee, and boom, takes it.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
even planes and stuff. Like if you think about animals that can grab, even insects. Like you think about certain animals that grab insects out of the air, and proportionally, the distance between that,
mhm.
something could easily reach up and grab like a low flying plane or something like that.
Well, I mean, a plane would be. You'd have to be pretty low. I mean, if there was one historical incident that I would consider
Well,
attributable to something
and
like that,
I say plane very loosely. I mean more like World War II esque. Like you're flying low and slow.
a seaplane or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there is one incident where a blimp of some kind, and this is like in the 40s or something like that, was like reported missing, and it had like everybody was gone. When eventually they found it, like adrift or something like that. It was over the water. I don't remember the whole story, but I mean, something like that. If you were low enough and slow enough, if you saw something curious, you went down to take a look at it and stuff, you'd make a terminal mistake to do something like that. There have been sightings of huge sperm whales being attacked by what people thought was snakes wrapped around them, and they're really some sort of monstrous squid that is big enough to eat a whale. That's a big squid. So yeah, you're right. I mean, if you go low enough, then you're taking your life in your hands. But I think a lot of these things aren't like. See, now you're getting me talking nonstop, or I'm getting me talking.
Yeah. Well, what about the
I just
megalodon?
you guys had a
Matt?
vampire scene, and that was it. So I
That's quite all
apologize.
right. We do this regularly. Kind of go off on side streets. So you're great.
Yeah. What about megalodon?
I've become a bit of a megalodon expert. There is a mega shark section in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. I encourage you guys to get the book, especially if you want me to come talk about it. But
I literally just bought it. Look,
Yeah.
like a few minutes ago.
I like him. There's we basically proved that the white shark can push 30 feet in length. There are fresh feeding bites on humpback whales that were measured. 38 inches high was the biggest one. That's a giant shark. Giant. Okay. And 27 inches across. Much bigger than Jaws, just as we're clear. But there's also bites in there that I studied that are like, there's one on a pygmy blue whale, which they had a documentary on TV on Discovery. And there's one on a 40-foot whale shark that has a 4-foot bite scar on its flank, on its cotocule on the side. So all this stuff. So, I mean, it looks like there's the potential for some sort of predatory shark out there that's pushing 40 feet or 40 feet in length.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'd be a megalodon. From what I've heard, the marine biologists think it's a white shark that doesn't stop growing, like occasional like mutant type of thing, which could make sense. Or, there's a lot of possibilities. But yeah, I do a lot of research on all this stuff.
The thing that fascinated me was the killer whale that had the bite marks on it.
We should save this for an actual show where my daughter's not going to be calling me in 2 seconds and asking me to watch her anime show with her. Do this, and I just was like, these guys need to know that there is such a real thing as real vampires, and I know what they look like, and they're ugly as
Yeah.
and just good God,
Well,
this is not Edward Cullen.
regardless of what we're talking about, I mean, anytime you want to jump on, just jump on.
Yeah, just let us know.
I didn't
We're
even know
we're on
that
Friday
you guys
nights.
do the show. Yeah, I just was happening to, cruise through looking to, I had to answer questions and deal with comments and throw somebody out of a group and whatever and stuff like that. And I saw it, I was like, vampires. I'm like,
and you're selling copies of Monsters and Marine Mysteries.
Right.
Tony just bought a copy.
but I didn't pretend to go on here and sales pitch people. I'm just,
You don't have to. People it's interesting. We love this sort of thing, and this is your people.
But wait, there's more.
And
Vampire.
I'll be raffling off the shorts I was wearing that night. They've been in a time capsule. Took that long to get rid of the problems, but anyway. Oh God, what an experience! Yeah.
Yeah.
You think. I mean, where's this hot female vampire? Like Vampirella. And that's when I used to read those magazines and stuff. This was not Vampirella. This was the furthest thing from Vampirella.
This was
like,
Nosferatu.
oh, this was much worse than Nosferatu. I'm telling you, this thing. Oh. If I'd seen its head, its face, I probably would have had a heart attack and died. Honestly, even before it even got to me, I would have probably just died.
My toxic trait is thinking that I could pull out a knife and wait for it to come up.
Yeah. I was like that. I wouldn't got away from it and ran over and tried to shove it back down in the dirt.
I would have had to have seen it. I would have had to.
It just when you lift weights a lot, you get an idea of what strength is, and you see powerful guys lifting all these huge amounts of weights and all this other stuff, and then you're thinking something that can move through soil vertically. Imagine if it's 6 feet under, as the saying goes, and it's going through. I mean, how much does 6 feet of topsoil weigh with all that rocks and crap and stuff that's in there? I mean, it has to be like 5 or 10 tons, So just to survive that compression pressure, I mean, just like what you'd have to be like solid steel, and that's why I said, you hit this thing with a nice stick, the stick breaks, does absolutely nothing, and then your lunch. Okay, then that's what my brain told me was going to happen. I was not sticking around to find out, and I just ran like a sissy, and I don't care. I don't care.
No hate. No hate.
Nobody in their right mind, most people, maybe it thought I was just going to freeze in terror and stand there and get, eaten. Maybe that happens. I bet it does.
It does. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, but my brain was like, literally, I literally said, "Feet don't fail me now," and ran down that hill.
Who knows? Maybe the gaze is the only thing that allowed you to run away, like not meeting its eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yep.
yeah.
What about the dog? Did the dog ever want to walk that way again?
Oh, we never even discussed it, to be honest. I mean, he went where he was supposed to be, where he was taken. I never went anywhere near this. I mean, I don't even think I walked him at night anymore at all.
Have you guys seen this? I'm hitting the ditch here, but have you seen where people have started giving their dogs buttons to speak?
What?
Like, there's push buttons where you can record a message like, I need to go out, and they're teaching the dogs to hit the button to tell you what they need.
Really?
And
I need that.
It's almost like a pedal board where they can say different things. And I don't know why this lady gave her dog a button that says this, but the dog kept hitting the button to say, I want to go to the park. And, or I want to go to the dog park is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog hits it. And she says, no, we're not going to the dog park today. You were just at the dog park yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And it slowly walks over to this other button, and it just starts going, bitch.
Are you serious? It
I
says
swear to
that?
God. Yeah,
Why did it have?
I don't know
Why does it have a
why.
button that says that?
I have no idea. But I
For the
laughed at
video.
that forever today.
Wow.
But yeah, people are doing that now. Pedal boards of buttons where dogs can express themselves.
That's the last thing I need my dog to have.
That's what
I mean, our Siberians are. We have Siberian forest cats, and they're incredibly intelligent. I mean, the things like that they do will blow your mind. They act like people. Like it's entertaining. They try to be just like us. I mean, sit like us. You know, like watch TV with us while sitting like us. I've seen one trying to turn the remote control on one time for the television. I swear to God. And one time they succeeded in the middle of the night, so I stopped leaving the remote out because I thought it was a burglar watching TV in my house. You know, they turn their toys on, their electronic toys. They turn them off. You know, like all sorts of stuff. It's like, but you know, if I could get them to talk, I think that'd be interesting. You know, except Mace all day would be like, scratch my back, scratch my back, scratch my back.
Exactly.
You know?
Thanks for that, Tony. 450 pounds of dirt.
Whoa. Each square foot of coffin is under at least 450 pounds of dirt. Wow. So that's astonishing. And a coffin would be, I'm going to say, 28, 30 inches wide on a guess by 7 feet long. So you're talking like that, multiply that by 20. I mean, that's
crazy.
9,000 pounds on a rough guess off the top of my head. I mean, it's astonishing. And just be able to claw through. It must have been coming like swimming upward because of the way the hand was. You know what I mean? Like it came straight up. See? And I mean, it had to be doing some damage. Like I said, its nails were very jagged. It had these big, thick nails, and they were like chewed up though. Like, you know, like really nasty looking and stuff. And yeah. And on that note, well, it's been my pleasure. Guys, I apologize for intruding.
Oh no.
No,
It's
no,
great having you,
This
Max.
has been great.
Yeah, thanks, Max, for stopping.
Yeah.
Sure, it was my privilege. And if you guys want to do something, you know, like marine predators or all that jazz, yeah, just reach out to me. And
Absolutely.
And you guys know, find me on Facebook, send me a friend request, let me know who you are, so I don't, because I usually don't accept friend requests. There's some weirdo that's been like stalking me. No, I'm serious.
Say something.
And he's obsessed with worms.
Yeah.
Actual worms. Okay? I mean, what's up with that? It's like, and then he kept wanting to bother me, talk about worms. And I'm like, who are you? What do you want? And then I might get in trouble for saying some of this. I don't know. And then there's like a guy that who I was on his show, and he's telling me, he goes, somehow he got my phone number and my email address, and he calls me every day.
Just so you know, Mark Eady is watching this.
It's not Mark. And then he's like, and now his parents are calling me. I'm like, what? As an old man, and mom and dad are calling this poor bastard. I mean, I blocked him right away. I was like, this guy's out there. Okay, I'm not dealing with this. I've seen enough in my day to know trouble when I see it. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about worms? What do you mean? And then he starts trying to throw worms scientific terminology. Do you know what this is? Do you know what
that reminds me of that Insane Clown Posse song where they're like, magnets, how do they work? So random.
Yeah, and then just yesterday, the guy that he's now also stalking, I'm calling it, he sends me a screenshot, and the guy's blocked, totally blocked now. So he says to him, hey, how's Max Hawthorne? Like that. He can't bother me himself, so he wants to ask about me through this guy.
I'm surprised. You better watch out. I'm sure he'll make other accounts just to spy on you.
You didn't have to go there, Tully.
I have the fastest ban button in the West. I don't, I'm going to buy your books. Yeah, sure you are. Click. Yeah, whatever. You don't have to talk to me to buy my books, okay? Just don't leave a review, especially if there's worms in it. I like worms, Max. You know what I really like about worms? I don't want to know.
I can't wait for the review that says this book could use more worms.
No, in Kraken 1, Chrono Spice and Kraken 1, there is a 60-foot pliosaur tapeworm in there
Oh,
that they
nice.
extract from this thing, and then it goes on a rampage and everything, and it's like, oh, it's supposed to, just writing about it gave me a little. I'll read that part on the show. I'll actually read it. I gave it a sick name too. I forget. Anyway, on that note, thank you so much. I like I said, I didn't mean to hog in.
Oh,
And all,
no.
and, you know,
It was
you guys
awesome.
have a yeah. Thank you, and
We,
have a wonderful
we
night.
appreciate it. Have a good night, Max.
You have a good one, Max.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You know,
Peace.
That's pretty cool. That was awesome.
Yay!
it was.
Awesome.
Thank you
Oh.
for surprise guest.
Yeah, I
That
don't
was
know
awesome.
if he's just gonna stop listening. I didn't get to the dark part about the animal buttons.
Oh yeah.
Of course not. There had to be more.
Yeah, so it has like an array of buttons, and this dog. So it's in the middle of the day, and the dog goes over these buttons, and you hear it go dark corner, and the dog starts going over into this corner of the house and just staring.
Oh no, the dog had to move out.
So there's a whole like chronicle after that of what happens, but yeah, the dog's definitely reporting back on entities.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't want the buttons. Let's just
That's
do
okay.
away with that.
I don't know, y'all. Training Boo Bradley's been kind of hard.
So, guys, when are y'all gonna plan a deep sea fishing trip?
Ain't happening.
Y'all
Nope.
got to hear him talk about those turtles. These giant
yeah.
turtles. They eat people.
Like the ones with islands on their backs. That big.
Well, pretty big.
There's always
pretty
been
big.
lore of turtles so big that they have like an
Yes.
ecosystem on their backs.
Uh-huh.
Yes, big turtles.
There's turtles in Oneida, Kentucky that will eat people. Apparently, some dude fell into the river a long time ago, and they couldn't find him. And a bunch of turtles, turned out a bunch of turtles ate them. And so they were having funerals at this funeral home.
Not the funeral home with the turtles. Don't do it.
And they had
Don't do
to,
it.
they had to have people outside kicking these turtles back into the river that were coming out to go to the funeral home to eat the people inside.
See, I have a different perspective of that story, and Cecil doesn't even know that I know that story.
I didn't know you know that one.
I like your
Sure.
version better.
Yeah.
Well,
Yours was kinder and gentler.
Yes, it was.
Cecil, oddly enough, I know the people who own that house that used to be the funeral home,
Yeah.
and they said that the dude that happened to was into black magic, and he could make what did they say? Tables dance and chairs walk. And before he died, he told them to let the turtles take him away.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
No, I've heard that story my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, this was
That
a long time
Appalachian
ago.
stuff, guys.
There's a lot of magic up in them mountains.
Mm-hmm.
It's because
You know
it's from the weed.
Do you remember? Well, I won't say their name on here because I don't know what they have going on in life these days.
You don't want to mess with them Appalachian folks that know the black magic now, Tully.
Oh no, his family didn't know any of it. It was his family that hosted wakes in this house, and they're the ones that had to swap the turtles away.
We talked about that like offline one time.
Yeah,
I didn't know you knew that story. I ain't brought that up before. I don't think.
yeah. I can't believe that we've never talked about that before. Like that's legitimately the first time he's ever talked about it, and the first time he's known that I know about it.
Good Lord, you guys and those turtles.
And
Turtle
I
meat
was
down here
going
is a
to
little
draw
bit
some
better.
turtles this weekend. Now I'm going to just not.
Well, the turtle. What I was going to say is I've had turtle meat from all over the place, and the ones from Oneida taste the best.
Yeah, my great aunt. I remember being like 6 years old, and she was teaching me how to cook or to skin and cook a snapping turtle.
Ooh,
It's
It was
disgusting.
good.
really?
was
It
good.
tastes like
Yeah.
chicken?
Yeah.
More like alligator, probably. Like
Yeah.
the consistency of alligator.
Yeah. Well, alligator kind of tastes like chicken until it gets tough or cold.
Turtle meat's a little bit more like juicy. Like
If we don't sound country before, guess what?
You know what's underrated though?
what?
What was severely underrated is rattlesnake meat.
Oh, rattlesnake's the best.
Things that I'm not gonna eat.
Imagine the
The
best
zombies haven't
spicy,
come yet.
the best spicy chicken you've ever had.
That's good. You can just run a stick through it and hold it over fire after you pull it off.
Never say never, because I've seen some of the stuff they've eaten in these zombie books you've had
Oh.
reading.
Back to vampires.
Yes,
Back to
yes. Okay,
This
Chloe.
We need to wrap it up.
Yes.
We went way long tonight. It was a good conversation.
It was a very good conversation. Yes,
Not
it
much
was.
about vampires, but
No, we got about the first half about vampires, so
yeah.
could be a lot
We
worse.
went over vampires.
You get an hour of vampires and an hour of our life's work.
So is Steven going to join us tomorrow night when we're on Wearing the Folk?
Oh yeah, you want to come on wearing the folk?
Yeah, I probably can. What time?
8-ish.
8 Eastern.
87. Okay.
We're going to be talking about the World's Fairs.
Expos and expositions. Episode 1's coming out tonight.
Okay.
Wearing the folk is back.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting conversation.
Grease up your ears because we sliding on in.
Did Rich say anything?
Yeah, was
I
the,
hadn't heard from
elevator-
him. I was sending messages, but with my work schedule, we hadn't been chatting as much.
Yeah.
Was
I
the
just-
elevator
I-
introduced to the World Fair?
Huh?
Was it the elevator? Was that
I-
introduced to the World's Fair? Or
I
not?
believe so.
I was thinking
Yeah, there's a
maybe
lot.
New York or somewhere. Maybe.
If you get a chance to look into it, Stephen, kind of the gist of it.
Well, we're going to go over it tomorrow also.
Yeah, like we read a book. It's called "Exposing the Expositions" by Howdy McCoskey, and it's how the World's Fairs didn't make any sense. So if you start duck going down that rabbit hole or something like that, or using Brave, you'll get to the kind of the center of the conspiracy there.
There's kind of not a whole lot of information about it though on the internet that I could find. Like most of it, I had to get from the book.
Yeah, I like
guess
Brave
there's some
better than DuckDuckGo. It's faster.
Brave is
Brave?
well. I'll wait until we
Yeah,
stop
Brave.
recording to mention this.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, guys, this has been great. I've had a wonderful time, even though we did go down several rabbit holes. This has been a good conversation. I appreciate all of you being here. And until next time, guys, stay weird. Oh, crap. Can you end this? My computer's
Stay
frozen.
weird, guys.
Rabbit